You're listening to the Hazard Ground Podcast, with service members from across the military sharing their stories of combat and survival. And now, here's your host, Mark Zinno.
Welcome into the Hazard Ground Podcast. As always, we appreciate you joining us each and every week. Before we get to this week's guest, an amazing story of a former Marine who was the second African-American awarded the Navy Cross and the first since the post 9/11 War on Terror. Just an incredible tale. We'll get to all the great things that he is doing coming up in just a few moments. But our normal reminders, as always, about following us on all the social media sites, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Hazard Ground Podcast. Please continue to leave us Apple reviews. Help grow the show, help grow the Hazard Ground community. It doesn't have to be a long length review. Just give us 5 stars. Tell us why you love the show. We'll continue to try and post those on social media as they come in. But I certainly appreciate all the feedback and all the love that you guys give us each and every week. So thank you so much for that. As well, our promotion with Amazon continues. Listen, I know we've made some updates to the website and some changes there, including the sponsors tab is gone. I've been telling you guys to go to the sponsors tab for the Amazon thing. Right now, the Amazon button is only at the bottom of the homepage. Go there, click to it. It'll redirect you to Amazon. Please do all your normal Amazon shopping. We'll get a percentage of what you guys spend, and then we'll donate a percentage of that back to some of the charities and organizations you've heard featured here on the show. Again, just go to hazardground.com and click on the Amazon button at the bottom of the homepage. And again, if you have been trying to contact us through the homepage and you haven't heard anything back, please try again. We had some spyware, whatever you call it, bots. They were attacking us, and we fought back, and we have won through noted web security. But anyway, I joke around and I kid, but all things serious. If you've been trying to contact us and you haven't heard anything back from me, please go to the website, hit the contact us button, fill out all the forms, and I'll certainly get back to you guys. We appreciate everybody who has reached out to us, and we will get back to you. And we love the guest suggestions, so please keep them coming. All right, this week's guest is a former Marine who retired as an E-7 gunnery sergeant. Had 18 years of service before he was medically retired from the Marine Corps. He's got 3 combat deployments, all of them to Iraq, where, again, he was awarded the Navy Cross, the second ever African-American to receive the award, and the first since Doris Miller of World War II. That was over 60 years ago, and the first African-American to receive the Navy Cross as part of the post 9/11 War on Terror. He was also injured in Iraq on his second deployment. Currently serves as the Vice President of Programs alongside former NFL Hall of Famer LaDanian Tomlinson at the Tomlinson Center. And there they establish high production cultures and create elite citizens. They work with student athletes and troubled youths. Just an amazing organization. And on his way to starting a nonprofit as well. And we welcome him in. He is Aubrey McDade joining us here on the Hazard Ground. Aubrey, welcome, man. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, Mark. Thanks for having me, man. How's it going?
It is great. I heard your story, and I fell in love with it immediately. Not only just because of the noteworthiness of you being the second African-American to be bestowed the honor of being awarded the Navy Cross, but just, your entire career is it's kind of like, I hate to phrase it this way, but like, it's almost like they make movies about guys like you. Like you from the outside looking in, you always felt like the perfect Marine, and you did all the things that Marines are supposed to do outside of being an outstanding leader. You got to be a drill sergeant as well. I mean, you kind of you seem to fit into the Marine Corps like a hand into a glove.
I did, man. I just think my whole life was training for that. I come from very humble beginnings and some of the worst zip codes in Fort Worth and Houston. And when I take my time to reflect and look back on all the things that I endured as a child and as a young adult before I enlisted to the Marine Corps, I just thought about it. I was like, wow, like that hardship at that time, it sucked, but it prepared me to have the mental and physical readiness for the Marine Corps.
Do you think about your childhood and the impoverished neighborhoods, the crime-ridden neighborhoods that you lived in, and wonder, had you not gotten to the Marine Corps, if you would have literally made it out alive?
Man, I think about that all the time. So I'm a father of 10. I got 8 sons and 2 daughters.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Especially as it relates to my son. It's what happened, man. You go to deployment, you go fight in combat, you come back home and you try to make it count. So you got to go again. But yeah, man, I talk to my sons about it often. And I don't think that I would have made it out alive. I really do think that everything I experienced was a part of God's plan. And I just vividly remember, if that recruiter doesn't come by. I remember when he was actually recruiting me to go to the Marine Corps, and before he had come by, I was already thinking of how am I going to get some money? How am I going to be able to feed my little sister? How am I going to help my mom with these bills? And it just kind of just popped up that way. So I don't think.
How does the interaction start? I mean, were you just like out of options, or it was just something that you saw on TV? Like, how does the Marine Corps get into your conscience?
Oh, man. So on my 18th birthday, my best friend, Kelton Nelson, he's in the Air Force. On my 18th birthday, we went to Six Flags, hung out with some girls. And later that night, we was getting ready to go to this party in Fort Worth. And early, maybe late afternoon, we just come back from Six Flags and we pull up at Town Center Mall. And I went to sleep in the back seat. I was just, resting or whatever. I am not a good rider. I would go to sleep on him in a minute. But he wakes me up and he's like, man, what are we going to do with our life? And I'm thinking about, that's a weird question. We already said we're getting ready to go to a party. What are you talking about? He's like, man, you can't keep on, being in the streets, doing what you're doing to try to get money. I wasn't selling drugs or anything like that, but I wasn't a saint either. And he was like, I'm thinking about going to the Air Force. And in underserved communities, we don't really know much about the military. So for me, I was like, man, I'm not going to the Army. He's like, no, man, I'm not talking about the Army. I'm talking about the Air Force. I'm like, well, it's all the same to me. So long short of it, we go into the recruiting office and I didn't get along with the Air Force recruiter that well. I didn't like him at all. But my best friend, he took the ASVAB. I took the ASVAB. He scored really high. And it pissed me off more because I didn't do that well. So I was like, man, for one, I don't want to go to the Army. Then you go in there and have me take this test. Now I'm pissed off because I didn't do that well. And I don't like the Air Force recruiter. But long short of it, life slowed down, man. He left, I think, late September, maybe early October. He left and life just slowed down for me. And I started thinking about, I actually started paying a little bit more attention to the Marine Corps commercials. Specifically the one where the guy fights the lava monster over the bridge.
I remember.
So I remember that. And just for the sake of the story, I was actually going to one of the neighborhood stores in my neighborhood at the time. And as I was going to the store, this police officer rose up on me. He's like, what's up, Black? I'm like, man, you don't know me. He's okay, Aubrey McDade Jr. And he drives off. Scares the crap out of me. So I run back to, at the time, I moved out of my parents' house when I was like 15, almost 16 years old. I just felt like, if this is what I got to experience, I can do bad by myself. My parents were crack addicted at the time. So I moved out and he and I lived together. But this time I moved out, I was living with my girlfriend at the time. She was 5-6 years older than me. So I was staying with her. So I run back to her apartment. I asked her, had the police been by? She's like, no. And went to my mom's old apartment. And she's like, no, the police hadn't been by. And then just for, I guess, maybe 2 weeks, give or take, Gunner Sergeant Lee, Marine Corps recruiter, comes by. And he pulls up in his red Durango. And I'm seeing him. And I'm like, yeah, nobody around here drives a vehicle like that. So it was just he and I. It was maybe 8 o'clock in the morning. I was sitting on the porch, had like a shirt on and some basketball shorts. And he gets out. And I'm like, hey, man, who you looking for? He's, I'm looking for Aubrey McDade. And nobody lives around here with that name. And he's, okay, well, can I give you my car? He gave me the car. Again, scared the crap out of me. So I go back in the house. Hey, has the police been by here? She's like, no. I said, what is this? Like, why is they coming by dropping off cars? I said, that's not the police. That's the military. Either way, one particular time, I was actually leaving my mom's house. Gunner Sergeant Lee had come back to the projects where we lived at. And as I was coming out, he was getting ready to knock on the door. And he was like, hey, man, I know you. I'm like, you don't know me. I'm trying to get in the car and leave. Unfortunately, at the time, I had this 88 Buick Skylark that would never start on the first crank. And so as I'm trying to step on the gas pedal to get it started, he's at my mom's house having a conversation with her about whatever they were talking about. So, Aubrey Jr., get your ass back over here. Yes, ma'am. So I get out and go back over there. I said, man, what's up? What do you want to talk about? He said, okay, I see what this is. He said, man, I won't take too much of your time. And my sister and I, she and I are 5.5 years apart. And she was hugging me around my waist while the gunner sergeant was talking to me. And he just told me, he said, man, I believe you deserve better than this. And I believe that the young lady hugging you around your waist deserves better than this. So if you feel like this is what your life, if this is what your life is going to amount to, then don't come see me. He said, but if you feel like you deserve better and she deserves better, you got my card, make your way downtown and come see me. And I went downtown. The conversation was really simple. At the time, I knocked out 18 pull-ups and did the running stuff and did the crunches and everything. And he's like, man, you want to change your life? This is the way to do it. You got to pass the ASVAB. So I passed the ASVAB. I scored a 35. And I think it takes a 32 to get into the Marine Corps. So the good news was that I passed. And the bad news was that they didn't have a job for me. So I had to go in and open contract. He's like, it's like a crapshoot. Like, well, yeah, I like to shoot craps. I'm a 10-4 shooter. We can do it that way. So I went in, and the Marine Corps saw fit to make me a machine gunner. And the rest of his history. I remember that moment. I was in Camp Pendleton, SOI. I remember we were standing in front of our barracks and they was giving us our MOSs and our assignments. And as he said, Private McDade, Aubrey 31. I'm like, man, what the fuck is that? I look around and all the guys like, man. So there's a really steep hill in Camp Pendleton called Mount Motherfucker or Steep Shit. And these Marines were struggling on Mount Motherfucker with 50 cal machine guns. And they was just stretched all apart, like they were hurting. They're like, yep, that's gonna be your life. And at that moment, I had a moment of reality, and I had to do a reality check. Man, you gonna make this thing work, or you gonna go back to Fort Worth? And I was like, no, I'm not going back to Fort Worth. So I just made my mind up. I'm gonna make this work. So.
That's incredible. Wow. So, I mean, you had a very persistent recruiter. You're not in the Marine Corps probably without him accosting you once, twice,
right.
3 times. You might have gone down a different road. Did you ever cross paths with him again before your career was over?
I haven't. I think the fact that I gave him, I wouldn't say it was a real hard time, but I think the fact that I challenged him a little bit, once he got me in and I passed that mark, I haven't heard from this guy since. I didn't get a letter in boot camp. He didn't send me a care package. He like, man, yeah, you belong to the Marine Corps now.
But like, I mean, did you ever think about like trying to find it? Like, I mean, he changed your life, right? Like,
yeah.
Again, like if he doesn't do the things that recruiters do, which is be annoying and persistent and help you make decisions you're not 100% sure you should make. And I say that in jest about our recruiters. They're all, good people just trying to do a job.
Yeah.
But again, there are stories like yours that's like, well, look at your life now, and you're not there without it, because again, you talked about it, you could be down a completely different road. You might not even be here right now. And that's pretty amazing. I'd like to find Staff Sergeant Lee, you said it was, or Gunnery Sergeant?
It was a Gunnery Sergeant Lee. I don't remember his first name, but I know this guy was ginormous. He was at least about 6'2", in pretty good shape. I just remember Gunnery Sergeant Lee. I don't remember his first name.
Was there any reservations for you about leaving your mom, your sister? I know you talked about worrying about them and caring about them and going to do this and just going away from them and anything that could happen. Were you scared about leaving them?
I have reservations, man, because, I mean, the hood is unpredictable. There's always something happening, especially when, your family is a part of that life as well.
Yep.
I had my reservations, but my head, heart, and stomach was on the same page. I knew that I had to go. So when I left, I didn't even tell anybody that I left. So the way I left was I passed ASVAB, and I was supposed to leave February of 2000. And Gunnery Sergeant Lee calls me early November and says, well, hey, man, one of my recruits dropped out. I need somebody to ship earlier. And I was like, well, I'm glad you called. I need somebody to pay this light bill. He said, light bill? I'm like, yes, sir, $382. You give me $382 to pay this light bill, I'll leave whenever you want me to leave. And at the time he called me, I had my spark plug and my screwdriver in my hand. I was going to steal a car radio or something. And he's like, $382. I'm like, yes, sir. He come by, cash money, $382. Going, hey, mom, hey, pay the light bill. She's like, thank you, baby. Where you get this money from? Hey, don't worry about it. I'll see you later. And next time my mom heard from me, I was on the phone at MCRD San Diego. Hey, mom, I arrived at MCRD San Diego, safe and sound, yada, 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 all that stuff. And she was getting pissed off because I wouldn't let her talk. I'm like, look, you can't talk. I'm going to get in trouble. Then they came and hung the phone up and all hell broke loose.
Where'd you get that money? Don't worry about it. I'll see you later. Like literally later.
Yeah.
Like much, much later.
Right.
That's incredible. That's awesome. I don't want to derail this because but I do want to ask about the relationship with your mom real quick and where is it now? And, you seem to have this tough sort of relationship where, obviously you care for your mother and everything. And again, I don't have no background on this, so I'm just spitballing here. So forgive me.
Right.
But, also your mom is living a life that is not conducive to you living a good life, right? Like you said, you're in bad conditions, but you said mom was addicted to crack and she's not making it better. So, but yet you're still paying the electric bill. You're still keeping the lights on for her. So, does she ever get mad at you down the road for not telling her? I mean, like, where are you guys now? I'm just sort of curious.
Man, I love my mama, dog. Like my mama, it doesn't matter the things that she and I had been through together. I believe I'm her first real man. I had my biological father.
Sure.
And he was killed by the police when I was 11 years old behind some drugs as well. But that love that a young man can have for a mom, I just think mine is unmatched. And for me, it's real simple for me. Other people may not see it this way, but she could have made a different choice. She could have went to the clinic. She could have did something else instead of deciding to, have me as her son.
Right.
And all the stuff that we went through, I just felt this sense of responsibility and obligation. Like, that's my mom. I don't really give a damn what she got going on. It's not personal for me. I think she's just sick. So while she's sick, I'm gonna hold it down for my little brother and my little sister. And I think all the things that I had to take responsibility for shaped and molded me to be able to be the Marine that I am. So now today, our relationship is great. She was pissed off when I came back, and I get like a little smack on the face. Well, like, Mom, I had to make this change so I can get us up out of here. So it was short-lived. It's good.
Is she more proud of you, or are you more proud of her?
I'm more proud of her. Yeah, I'm more proud of her. And it's funny, well, not really funny, but it's ironic that when I go to the Marine Corps, she gives up the drug by herself. She doesn't go to rehab.
Wow.
None of that. She just quits.
Look at that. That gave me chills,
Yeah.
bro. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, congrats to your mother. Congrats to you. That's
appreciate
incredible.
that, man. Thank you.
Listen, it's those little parts of our stories that we don't really focus on, right? Like when we there's that extra sort of tangential thing going on in our military lives that's always with us and always there, that's pushing us, motivating us, driving us, whatever it may be, is such an integral part of who we are in our story, and I think that's great. So I'm glad that you shared that with me. Thank you. All right, so you signed up, you're 2000, right? You're good. Life is peachy in the Marines. You get sent to, what's your first assignment? You're at 1-8, right?
Yeah, man. So I think I came in at the perfect time because I came in November 99. So I was able to see what my Marines, my senior enlisted, considered to be the old Corps. Right. Then we transitioned to the digital academy. So I was able to be a part of all these transitions. Yeah, my first duty station was Bravo Company 1-8. And I had reservations about going there at first because when they were calling out the names to give us our duty stations, my name was called for Hawaii. So I was excited. Then my sergeant instructor at the time, he just misread. It was a McClendon in front of McDade. So it was MCC, then MCD. I was like, so went to Bravo Company 1-8, and day one until my last day, it was awesome. We landed in, Sergeant Smith at the time was giving us our, I guess, introductory welcome aboard, whatever you call it. And he just pretty much telling us about how, Bravo Company 1-8, we got the standard, we're the best machine gun section in the battalion, all this other stuff. And if you have any issues, let us know. You got a problem with me and my NCOs, we can handle it. I look around, it didn't alarm anybody else, but for me, it did. So, like, Sergeant Smith with us, we can handle it. Me. So you want to find out, Boot? No, Sergeant, I'm good. And that was Welcome to 1-8.
Good decision. Good decision at that point in time. So life is peachy. You're having fun, but then 9/11 happens. Where are you? And what's going on around you? And did you think like, oh boy, this might have been a bad decision?
Man, so I had torn some ligaments in my ankle. My first deployment was in Europe, and we were just having a good time. And then off the coast of Africa, we were doing a hike and fell down the slope of this hill and tore some ligaments in my ankle. So I was on light duty for a little bit. And 9/11, I had this new gunner sergeant come in, Gus Ruiz. He came in, and he was the weapons platoon sergeant at the time. And he was a company gunner sergeant at the time. And since I was on light duty and I was an NCO, he made me his radio operator. And everybody was giving him all these kudos about me. Hey man, Day, he had a good piece of gear. He won the best machine guns, giving him all this stuff. And I was a corporal, E4. He was like, it's something that he doesn't know. So long short up, we was in the field doing 9/11, and he had me call in something over the radio. And I forget what it was for the life of me. But I do know that over the radio, for the phonetic alphabet I said igloo. I didn't say Indian. I said igloo. And he went freaking berserk. Igloo, we not the freaking Eskimos. So hazing me in the tree line. So I got pine needles and all in my head and my ears and everything. And then you hear what happens, 9/11 come over the radio. And it stopped. Man, to my ignorance, man, I didn't know anything about the Twin Towers. I didn't know what that was. I heard that a plane that flew into these buildings, but they had explained it all to me at the time. I didn't know. And I was in shock. I was like, man, so what does that mean? And they mean, like, eventually we're going to war. It's going to happen. So in my mind, I couldn't really grasp it, couldn't really understand it. I just knew that the things we're training to do is what we're going to have to do in real life one of these days. But I didn't know it was going to come that soon.
All right, yeah. So between that point in time, and you don't end up deploying until 2003 to Iraq, obviously when the war kicks off. But you're there at the very beginning of the war. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yep.
So give me kind of the breakdown. When do you find out that you're going to Iraq? What are you told your mission is? What is your understanding of everything that's going on?
Well, we had a pretty badass battalion, bro. And so we already knew that we had a battalion commander that was going to try to make sure that he get us there. We knew that already. So my understanding, they simultaneously were taking down Baghdad. That was like the biggest part of everything when it first started happening, to my knowledge, from what I remember anyway. Taking down Baghdad. And I think our part of the strategy was securing Mosul, Iraq. I think they had like a pretty large airfield there or something like that. So we secured that. But that was just a combat deployment. We didn't really have like highly kinetic fights in Mosul. We had our mission and we did what we had to do. And we got a combat action ribbon because rounds were exchanged between us and some Iraqis. But that was give or take about 30 days. And we went there we actually flew there. He loaded in from the ship. I think we was on the Nashville at that time. USS Nashville at the time.
Right. Okay. So how long are you actually in Mosul for? Because I know, correct me if I'm wrong here, when you're on ships, it's like you get off and then you go back and you get off and you go back. It's not like a regular standard, Marine deployment where you're on the boots on ground for 6-7 months straight.
Right. Yeah, no, it wasn't that. We was on in Mosul for about 30 days.
Okay. So, but Mosul, so you weren't part of the invasion, correct?
No, sir.
Right. Okay.
No.
So that's what I was looking at, because I'm just trying to understand, again, it took a couple of weeks to get up to Baghdad, and then, obviously they keep pushing north once they got Baghdad secured, but that was, I think, a month or two later when it was all said and done. So what 30 days was this? When do you actually get in Mosul? Do you remember what month it was of 2003?
I think it was May.
Okay. Yeah.
I think it was either April, May 2003. Yeah.
And at that point in time, Mosul, like nothing's really going on, right? Like you're not seeing
it was nothing really going on. And, we get there and we got to secure the airfield and all that thing. And I think it was just more of pissed off locals versus, like actual enemy combatants.
Right. So when this is all done, do you feel like you've been in combat?
I mean, I use my weapon against a human target, but I don't feel like it was combat. Not what we understand combat to be,
sure.
Especially with all the training and stuff that we do. Yeah, I didn't believe it was combat.
Is there a part of you that after you have to use your weapon for the first time begins? Do you feel like things are different? Do you feel like you're different from doing it? I mean, what was your approach to the whole thing?
We train so hard, man, that I think in a way it desensitizes you to what it is that you're actually doing. Because we had this thing where we fight hard, but we train harder. So for me, I thought about it, but it was nothing that got me off track or anything like that. I didn't think anything different about myself. It was just, we had the job to do, and I'm gonna make sure that the people to the left and the right of me come home. So
right. And I only ask all that because obviously, combat takes on a whole different form after your second deployment, which is the second battle of Fallujah, Operation Phantom Fury. Now, talk to me about the lead up a little bit of this whole thing. Like, again, this was May of 2003. You were there. The second battle of Fallujah until the end of 2004. So, what point in time in between do you find out you guys are heading back to Iraq, and when do you get there?
We knew we were heading back when we touched down back in the States. Mm-hmm. Now I didn't know that we was actually going to Fallujah. I mean, I didn't even know Fallujah was a thing then. So we get back October 2003. So that first deployment was my first biological son was actually born March 5th, 2003. We went to the deployment to Mosul, come back October 2003. We do our post-deployment leave to go visit our loved ones and take a break. And we immediately get back into training. My company did a cold weather package in Bridgeport, California, and then they did a package in Norway. Then they came back, and while they were gone, I still hadn't addressed the issues in my ankle, and I was supposed to get out of the Marine Corps. So they're like, "Hey, McDade, you getting out?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna get out." So I stayed in the rear party, but I was still helping around the battalion. I had went to become a police sergeant, so I managed the barracks and all that stuff while everyone was gone. And I would go pick the Marines up from Camp Geiger and everything, the newly graduated infantrymen from Camp Geiger. And as I picked them up, I was thinking about it. I was like, so if our company's in Bridgeport, Norway, they don't come back until February, March. We deploy June. So we're going to be off for the most part of May. These guys not going to have any time to do any training, no field ops or anything. So when they come back, when I pick them up, I take them through this hasty package that I make up with machine guns and field ops inside of the quad, and just try to do whatever I can do with the Marines that left behind to help train the new Marines. And it didn't sit right with me. So I went to our battalion doc, Dr. Kong at the time. And I'm not even sure if he remembers this, but I went over there and I told him, I said, "Sir, I need you to clear me to deploy." And he was like, "McDade, you got to have some surgery on your ankle. Like, you got ligaments hanging in your ankle like a shoestring. It's unstable. How do you know you want to go over there and become a liability?" I said, "Sir, I won't be a liability. I've been training my entire enlistment with this ankle being as it is. I'll be fine. I need you to clear me to go on this deployment." And he made me pray with him. He said, "I'll clear you if you pray with me." And I prayed with him. I think he was getting orders to go somewhere else. But
I prayed with him. Did that seem strange to you, by the way?
Say again?
Did that seem strange to you that he wanted you to pray?
No. So I was blessed to have my big mama. She's like my great grandma. I was blessed to have her to be 101 years old. She passed away in 2000, my first year in the Marine Corps. And all the things that she talked about God and her faith and her religion, when I heard it coming from him, I just took it as one of those things that, okay, this is a part of the equation. This is what I need in order to be able to go on this deployment. And I respected him a lot. He always took care of me when he was there. Yeah, we did that, and he signed up on medical record, and I went running to my company. My company commander and my platoon commander at the time, Captain Noble and Staff Sergeant Brown at the time, told him, "Hey, I'm gonna deploy." And man, don't be fucking with us. You going? Like, yeah, I'm gonna go. And so he welcomed me back into the platoon. And at that time, my machine gun section was a task force platoon, and we was doing a vehicle checkpoint and entry control point at the Area 2 basketball court on Camp Lejeune, just kind of still training until we get ready to deploy. And I told him, I said, man, we got to continue to train even when we get in country, because these young guys haven't even had any field ops. I think the biggest thing for me was, at the time, I think I'm 24, maybe 25, and we have guys that are 18, 19 years old that all they know is butter, jam, machine gun qualification on paper targets. They hadn't done any contact lefts, contact rights, anything. So we deployed June 22nd, 2004. Okay. We flying to Al-Assad and all that whole thing to get acclimated. Yep. And then the rest of it was op tempo.
And the op tempo for Fallujah at that point in time was off the charts.
Yeah, it was. And it wasn't even the Fallujah thing first. Our biggest issues, our biggest conflicts that we were experiencing was Haditha Dam, Ramadi, stuff like that. So we did a lot of security patrols and posted up at Haditha Dam for a while and did some patrols out of there. And then, we ended up being at ammo supply point, ASP Wolf. And we was over there just making sure that people couldn't come in and get, shrapnel and stuff like scrap metal and stuff like that to try to build bombs or nothing like that. We actually get to Camp Fallujah late September, early October. And that's when it became real for me, because we would hear artillery and stuff shaping Fallujah every day. Sometimes we even get some incoming mortar rounds from the city of Fallujah from the enemy combatants.
I mean, just for the scope, for those who aren't 100% clear on the Second Battle of Fallujah, you had, by certain estimates, a couple of thousand insurgents there from virtually every insurgent group out there. Al-Qaeda in Iraq, Islamic Army of Iraq, Al-Sunna. You had the Mujahideen, you had the Fedayeen from Saddam's regime there. I mean, it was, chaos from start to finish.
There was even Syrians that traveled to come and be a part. There was people from all different parts of different countries coming to be a part of this fight. It was like.
So what's the op tempo like leading up to the beginning of November when the battle starts? I mean, like, you have this small amount of contact that, these sort of pop shot things you're dealing with in Mosul. When did it really dawn on you in Fallujah, like, oh, this is way different than what I saw before?
In Fallujah?
Yeah.
So leading up to Fallujah, my platoon commander and my platoon sergeant, they were relentless with training. The Marines were too, but just the innovativeness that we took, the innovative approach that we took to training to try to make sure we leave no stone unturned, dot our I's and cross our T's. We were training to operate off of minimum sleep, of minimum chow, how we're going to move through the city, with what kind of weight we're going to move through. And every day was a 1 o'clock in the morning, hit the rack, probably 5 o'clock in the morning, get up and go on patrol or whatever the case may be. So we're actually getting ready. We're actually stationed outside of the train station, wait for, go time. And the whole time we're there, I'm hoping that it's a training evolution. I'm hoping that it's like some intense training. I'm hoping it's not real combat. My Marines and I actually had to have a conversation about it before we left, because you know how we get motivated. We're going to go, do this and do that, whatever the case may be. And I didn't want to hear it. And I told them, so may he rest in peace, Corporal Anderson And he pulled me aside one night. We was having a conversation, and he was like, "Why you don't want us to be motivated about what's about to happen?" I said, "Man, because we all are God's children, and we aren't going to be the only ones that's taking lives. Some of us are not going to come back."
Sure.
I don't think that people are thinking about that. You don't celebrate taking a life of anybody. We're going to go ahead and do our job and be the best version of ourselves we can be. But celebrating taking life is not going to happen. We're not going to do that. There's nothing cool or amazing about what we're about to do. And when it gets real, you'll understand. And we entered the city, and it was the most surreal thing ever because I didn't understand it. I didn't understand. Like we had shaped the city. We had buildings blowing up. We had gunshots and stuff going off. But then we also had psyops riding through the city playing Let the Bodies Hit the Floor. And I was like, what's happening right now? I'm talking about like just pump it, bro. Let the bodies hit the floor. And I'm like, what is going on right now? And I just couldn't take it all in. So I just snapped out of it. Hey man, just keep it moving. Keep it moving. So
was there any time prior to November 11th of 2004, that was the night or the day of the night that you were your actions got you awarded the Navy Cross, but was there any night before then that you thought, hey, I'm going to die here?
I never thought about dying there, but I did accept that before I deployed.
Well, yeah.
I accepted it. I talked to my wife at the time about it. But after that, once we have the conversation, it's just game time. I think when you allow yourself to think about stuff like that, it takes away from your second nature reaction.
You have to clear the mechanism, right? Like, right. I think I did the same thing where, prior to my deployments, I would just basically succumb to the fact that there's a better chance than not that this is the end. And you just have to kind of swim in that for a little bit and embrace it and accept it as reality. Now, there are times throughout my deployment I kind of needed to remind myself, like, hey, I'm really scared. Like I need to just figure out a way to clear all this out of my head, and so I can do the job that I'm focused and trained on doing. Because I think if you don't, those moments of fear and hesitation not only put yourself in danger, but could put your comrades, your brothers and sisters in danger. And that's the other part of it that really changes things. All right, so let's get to November 11th, 2004. Do you remember exactly where you were within Fallujah and what was going on, like what you were supposed to be doing that day? Can you give me the background?
I don't remember exactly where we were at, but I do know that we were moving to phase line grace, but that's just something internal to our battalion as far as our markings and stuff, as far as checkpoints. But we were leaving the Bath Party House, and we were on a patrol to our next checkpoint, and it was give or take maybe
patrol on foot. That is though, right?
Patrol on foot, right? Okay. Patrol on foot. So my company did all of our patrols on foot. We the only company that went from, or the battalion, should I say, they went from the top of the city to the bottom and back up on foot. Every now and again, we might get a ride from tracks or something, but it was nothing like that. We was always on feet, always on foot. But we were moving to our checkpoint at Phase Line Grace. I'm sorry, I said Bath Party. It wasn't Bath Party House. That was in Missouri. I forget the name of this place that we were at Fallujah, where we had lost our first casualties of the war. And so now it's real for everyone. At first we had taken down some people, we had leveled some buildings, but now we lost, Jimenez, and we had Sergeant Wells, and Garson Shane got hit. So now it's real for all of us. And we're actually under the cover of darkness, we're taking our patrol to get our second checkpoint. And as we were moving, I hear over the radio, PRR radio, which is, I don't know what it stands for, but it's a crap line of sight radio. And so I can hear what was happening, but they couldn't hear me responding. And I was able to hear Anderson and our platoon commander at the time talking about Iraqi special forces are up ahead. Now, mind you, before we even deployed out of the country to come to Iraq, our rules of engagement were, see the enemy, shoot to kill. And Iraqi Special Forces wasn't supposed to be in our area of operation. They're supposed to be chaperoned by the Army. So if you see them in your area of operation, deem them as a threat and engage. I hear Anderson and my platoon commander over the radio talking about Iraqi Special Forces ahead, and I'm screaming to the top of my lungs at the back of this patrol, open fire, open fire, open. And no one can hear me. So my second in command at the time, Justin Rose, I gave him the machine gun section. He pointed the machine guns, avenues of approach and all that stuff. And I took off running to the front of this formation, of this patrol. And man, I felt like I was running in slow motion. I'm a pretty fast dude. I'm like, why am I running so slow? And so I'm still trying to run fast. And I just feel like everything just slowed down. By the time I get up there, chaos had already broken loose. They had already opened up in the alleyway. And we found that they had 50 cal machine guns just like us. I think they even had some RPKs, maybe RPGs as well. And by the time I get up there, Anderson was already hit, and we had two other Marines hit. And Staff Sergeant Brown had already established a CCP with our corpsman at the time. And I just remember getting up there, hey, Staff Sergeant, what's going on? He said, man, we got 3 hit. I think Anderson is dead. And I was like, oh, he told me, he said, we don't have close air support. We'll have tank support for like 45 minutes. I was like, I'll go get them. Just don't let me die. He said, brother, don't get hit because we don't have any tank support or anything. Like, all right, Staff Sergeant. So my mind, it just made sense. If these guys got hit with all these freaking happy plates and all this gear stuff we're carrying, then I'm just going to rely on speed and this black skin and hope that I don't get hit. And I took all that crap off and dropped down and did about 10, 20 push-ups. That's my nervous thing, bro. Like, if I make a mistake or if I'm nervous, I drop down and do some push-ups, whatever, just kind of reset my mind. But I did that, and I ran across this alleyway.
Did he look at you when you were doing push-ups going, what the hell are you doing?
Well, no, I think he was in there
with
the corpsman, just kind of get everything. I was kind of in this little quad by myself. And I took off. And the first Marine I encountered was Lance Corporal Kelly at the time, Robert Kelly. May he rest in peace. He later deployed. He later went to become an officer, and he deployed and took his Marines to Afghanistan. I think he was killed in Afghanistan. But I landed on him and just kind of laid on top of him. And he told me where the Marines and stuff were at. And I jump up and I run, and I just jump over this porch. And I landed on the cashier Marines. And I don't know who all the Marines were at the time. And no disrespect to none of them, because I love everyone. But I really was looking for Anderson. Anderson was the guy that I had a personal hand in training. Even though he wasn't in my platoon, that guy came into the battalion. He was just this small guy with the soul of a 6'4" person. He was just that Marine. Didn't complain, didn't get in trouble, hardworking, PT stud. He was just that guy. But I landed on top of Lance Corporal Russell, and he was hit, I want to say, in his left leg. And the left leg was hanging by a piece of flesh. I would say probably about as big as your wrist. And strip all his gear stuff off. And at the time, the enemy is still attacking the other side of this porch with whatever ammunition that they're shooting at us with. And I don't know how we're going to get out of there. But one of my machine guns open up. They get accurate fire on the enemy because I know my machine gun. So that gave us a break in the fire. I was able to pick him up. And as I was running across the alleyway with him, the enemy starts engaging us again. And I remember running, and I remember just hearing my thoughts of, wow, they're bracketing us. Because rounds would hit maybe 5 or 6 feet in front of me, a burst of ammunition, and then burst of ammunition, maybe 5 or 6 feet behind me. And it was getting closer and closer. And as it got closer, I remember thinking like, damn, they got me. And I fall into a pothole. And Russell and I both lay on the ground. I remember looking up and seeing bullets hit right in front of Russell, skip past him, and bounce right past him. And the same thing happened to me as well. So I pop up really fast and I got him in like this, just baby carry position, if you will. I get him to the casualty collection point. And our corpsmen at the time, they do some miracle work. They were 18, 19 years old at best, and they may have had a tactical pause as far as processing everything that happened, but they immediately got to it, and they did a great job. I was actually able to see Russell when I retired in 2018 in January. He came to my retirement. He still has his natural leg and everything.
Okay, I was just going to ask you, did they save his leg? And they did.
Yeah, they saved his leg. Yeah.
Wow.
So I come out of the casualty collection point, and this time I know that the enemy has night vision capability. Obviously, you see the blessing in the dark skin, and it was after midnight around this time. So I try to low crawl and stay tight to the bulkhead, and I'm low crawling. I don't understand where I'm going. I know that Kelly pointed directions to me, but I wasn't really clear as to where they are. So I'm just following. I'm following the God inside of me. And I'm low crawling, my head on the ground, and I reach to this porch, and I'm able to touch this porch. I know it's a porch. I jump over the porch, and I accidentally land on top of Lance Corporal Dominance. Dominance is this Dominican cat from Florida, little bitty guy. Again, just like Anderson, hard as woodpecker lips, man. And so got him, stripped all his gear off, and he was arguing about it. I'm not leaving my weapon, Sergeant. I'm not leaving my weapon. Get your freaking weapon. Let's go. So I got him on my shoulder, take him back to the casualty collection point. And again, our corpsmen, they get to work. So I won't lead you to believe that I was doing all that stuff for 45 minutes. I just really believe that maybe the tank team that we had was just motivated and just they aborted where they was at and came to where we were. I don't know exactly how long I was doing the running and all that stuff, but finally tank support shows up. And
now wait,
on the back,
did you find Anderson yet or no?
No, I only got two. And Anderson is the third one.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. So you haven't found him yet. Okay.
No, I haven't found him yet. No.
Are you worried? So, are you like, I need to go back and get him?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. So tank support showed up.
Okay.
So now I'm on the back of the tank.
Sorry, I didn't mean to
I got the phone. Yeah. So I got the phone on the back of the tank, and I'm talking to the tank crew, and I tell them, I said, I don't know exactly where the enemy is, but I oriented them in the direction where the fire was coming from. And with their night vision capabilities, they was able to see where the enemy was at. And I'm just hanging on to the tank phone and staying close to the tank to protect myself. But I forgot we did a tank integration training, and there's an exhaust on the back of the tank that would burn the crap out of you, and it burned the crap out of you. So, but I stayed close to the tank. I just took it. I just sucked it up. And before I knew it, the tank had already fired a round, and it dazed me. You real close to the tank, and the round goes off. It dazed me. And then before I knew it, the second round goes off, and my senses are all off. My ears are ringing. I had snot coming out of my nose, and my vision had went out. It was like everything was just black. So I just made sure I kept positive contact with the tank. And when I gathered all my senses and stuff again, I was standing over Anderson's body. And we picked up all his gear and everything and got him to the casualty collection point. And I went in and dialed up a medevac and some I don't know if it was tracks or one of the ATV vehicles came and picked him up and got him out of there. I think the hardest part of that entire engagement was that it was really real for us because our platoon personally hadn't lost anybody. But now we went from hadn't lost anybody to now we got three guys gone. And having to swallow my own pain and the things that I was experiencing and get everybody minds back right and get them back into the fight.
I mean, you realize Anderson is obviously gone at this point in time when you get him. What does your mind do at that moment when you first see him?
It was a what the fuck moment, man. It was like, that was it. It didn't have any words. It was just like, just fuck.
Well, I mean, I know your fellow Marine had told you. I think Anderson's dead. Like, were you not believing it until you actually saw him?
Right. Yeah, I wasn't believing until I actually saw him. I know I heard that, but I was like, nah, we're gonna go out there and get him to make sure first.
Is there any part of you that maybe feels like you didn't do enough to get to him quicker, or?
I used to struggle with that, man.
Okay.
And I wouldn't necessarily say it was a survivor's guilt thing. I don't really have a title for it, man. But I struggled with that a lot. I did. And I went through some extensive therapy finally in 2014 to 2017 because I had sucked it up for as long as I could, and I found myself unraveling and close to even hurting myself again. And I had to go through that. And, you know, God's plan is God's plan. You know, the enemy got lucky that day. It wasn't that I didn't do enough or I couldn't run any faster than I was running. I couldn't do anything different than I was doing. I did the best that I could. I was the best version of myself at that time. But it took me a long time to come to grips with that.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's survivor's guilt. It's as simple to say, through our training, for better or worse, we are led to believe we can overcome anything. We are led to believe that we have more control than the enemy. We understand the enemy gets a say, but our training tells us if we do X, Y, and Z, if we do A, B, and C, we take the initiative back. And when that doesn't play out, we are left with more questions than answers. And ultimately, we through all training, we are compelled to evaluate our performance. But when we evaluate our performance and we still have a lost life at the end of it, we are in a unfamiliar, uncomfortable spot. And if psychiatrists want to label that survivor's guilt, that's fine. I think it's a little bit more complex than that. It's a little bit more ingrained than that. And to a certain extent, we will never be able to reconcile the simple idea that we never said I did all I can do and that's it. Because if that was the case, we honestly believe everybody would have come back. Right? There's not a scenario out there where you can concoct for anybody who's trained for any considerable amount of time that goes, okay, yeah, we're going to go into this. They have an edge on us. We're going to lose. No, that's just not the way we think. It's not the way we're trained to think. And so that is the struggle. I mean, look, it's a deeper, longer conversation, but that is the struggle that I think you're dealing with. Correct me if I'm wrong. I just,
no, you're right. You're right. You know, now I just have some things in place that give me a little peace. You know, God's plan to me is not a cop-out. You know, it's one of those things that when I can't understand and I give myself a little grace and compassion, then if there still isn't any understanding, that's what I go to. There's some things not meant for me to understand, and I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm. Now, you were also injured on this deployment, correct?
Yeah, it wasn't a severe injury, man. Besides the PTSD stuff that comes from it, I had a little hand injury. It was a shrapnel, but it was something that my docs handled at the time. And it's one of the things that, yeah, I probably could have left theater and, you know, probably got some more intense treatment, but they wasn't letting people come back into the city. So my injuries aren't even documented. I got a doc who pulled it out, made sure I didn't hit any ligaments, nothing, and did his little tape and gauze and just took care of it for me while we was there.
All right, so rub some dirt on it and get back in there, right? I mean, that's essentially what it boils down to. Now, you end up with one more deployment in 2009, right? Correct?
Yeah.
All right. Before that, though, in 2007, you are awarded the Silver Star for these actions. When do you first hear about this? And obviously, again, for those who aren't following, it's upgraded to a Navy Cross. But when do you first hear about the idea that you're going to receive an award?
So we we are done with the fight in Fallujah. Mm-hmm. We are pulling out of the city shortly after Christmas. I want to say December 27th, right. December 26th, December 27th. We're pulling out of the city, going to Al-Assad and holding there until it's time for us to come back to the States. In Al-Assad, I remember having a conversation with my first sergeant, and everybody was all proud of me and all this kind of stuff. And I told her, I said, man, I just did what all of us would do. We was in position to do it. And I want you guys to let that shit go. Let's leave everything here with Fallujah. Leave it here. I don't want to take it back with us. I just want to go back and just get back to the regular Marine Corps. So we come back to the States February 1st, 2005. And I finally started taking care of myself. I finally get ready to have the ankle surgery. I had some PRK surgery. And I got histed for recruiting. Histed is just like a list where you haven't done a special duty, they come get you to do the special duty. So I got histed for recruiting, but I didn't want to do recruiting. I wanted to go back on deployment. I wanted to go back on deployment. When we came back, I was hate-filled, bro. I had so much hatred and rage. And I was like, no, I want to go back to Iraq. I want to deploy with them when they go back. My first one was like, you've been in Bravo Company 1A for 6 years. That's unheard of. For 6 years, same battalion, same platoon, same company. Only thing changed was different barracks. But other than that, I was in the same position for 6 years. And I told first on, I was like, man, I understand you've always looked after me like you're my father or whatever. But I want to go back to Iraq. I'm gonna deploy back with the company. He's like, okay, well, I'm not a first round for nothing. Then I got the recruiting thing comes by. I'm like, man, first, I don't want to be a recruiter. He said, well, no, I was trying to get you to go and do your career and make the best out of it, but you told me no. So now tell the Marine Corps what you're going to do, what you're not going to do. I'm like, first off, man, please hit me. I do not want to be a recruiter. And he was like, the only way that you can get out of being a recruiter is if you got an SDA package already submitted. I was like, man. He said, why don't you be a drill instructor? I said, I don't want to do that. I hate those guys too. He's like, well, guess you're going to be a recruiter. No. First on, I'll be a drill instructor. He reaches his desk. He already has financial checklist and everything filled out for me. I want to go take it to Staff Sergeant Laurent. And I had orders to go to MCRD Paris Island, South Carolina, for April 4th, 2006.
There you go.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I was a drill instructor. Yeah. So I was a drill instructor when I got that award. I hadn't heard anything about it being a Silver Star or anything like that until I got on Paris Island. And that's because when I was in drill instructor school, when you get ready to graduate, they ask you, hey, for your graduation, who's going to come out? You got any colonels and generals, sergeants, majors, anything like that? Anybody expecting any awards or anything like that? And I didn't say anything. And my squad instructor at the time told them that, hey, this guy may be getting a Silver Star. I'm looking around like, not me. I shouldn't be getting anything because I already talked to my company about leaving this crap alone. But so a Silver Star never actually came to me. It came down, I think Sergeant Major Kent was Sergeant Major Kent was Sergeant Major Marine Corps at the time. He had whomever send it back up as a Navy Cross. So my second platoon as a drill instructor, the depot commander comes onto my squad bay. And I got 10 recruits on the quarterdeck, and I'm trying to snatch their freaking souls out of their lives. Because these kids, it was personal. It was really personal. It was, I had my watch on. It was just a whole bunch of stuff that I was getting in trouble for, that I know that I taught them really well on how to do. And just being, typical recruits, I'm going to scratch my face if I can get away with it. I'm going to half-ass my swabbing the deck, or whatever. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I had 10 of them. And so doing my whole IT session, wearing them out, and the depot commander comes on deck. But I'm so into this IT session, I don't even recognize that it's the depot commander. The recruits stop, they report the deck and everything. I report the deck to him. He says, carry on. So we're like, carry on, aye, sir. Good afternoon, sir. Push. I start wearing that ass out again. So he's like, stop, aye, sir. Good afternoon, sir. Yes, sir. He's like, you sure you want to be doing that while I'm on deck? I thought that he knew I had my watch paused because, in second phase, crews get 4 minutes, 30 seconds, and 4 minutes. So I had my hands behind my back and unpaused my watch. So like, oh, sir, I got about 2 minutes left. And push, start wearing them out again. He's like, drill instructor, you crews go away. Drill instructor, get inside the duty hut. So I go inside the duty hut. And again, it still hasn't dawned on me, this guy has a star on his collar. So I go in there and I'm like, oh shit. Brigadier General Lefebvre. Hey, sir. So he said, hey, it's too late for that shit now, Sergeant. Like, my bad, sir. What can I do for you? He said, well, if you stop being a freaking maniac, I can talk to you about what I'm doing. Get us something to drink. Yes, sir. So I get us some Gatorades, and he said, hey, have a seat. Sit down. So we sat down, and he said, I want you to relax. Yes, sir. And he says, what do you want me to give you your Navy Cross at? I said, I don't have a Navy Cross. He opens his red book. Aubrey McDade says my last four. I'm like, yes, sir. He's like, yeah, this is yours. You have a Navy Cross. Where do you want me to give it to you at? I took a pause for a minute, man, and I just had this. I relived everything in about 30 seconds to a minute. I relived everything. And I like, sir, I don't want it.
When you say relived everything, I'm sorry to cut you off. When you say relived everything, that day, November 11th, 2004, you're
yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. And
you say you don't want it.
It wasn't just November 11th, because there was a couple of houses out there as well where I had to get Marines out of that had been injured and or killed out of a few houses. But all that stuff. And I like, sir, I don't want it. And he's like, I appreciate you being humble. I said, I'm not being humble. I want to be humble. I'm not being humble. I want to get on with my life. I don't want it. And he said, well, hey, Sergeant, I'm sorry, but you already have it. And went to the computer, looked up MOL at the top, NX, Blue and Right Rating. So I shed my tears and stuff, man. And he and I go back and forth. Like, this is the depot commander. This guy has my career in the palm of his hand. And I'm sitting up here having this light debate with him. And so I don't want it. He's like, well, I understand you don't want it, but it'd be good for the Marine Corps and all this kind of stuff if you receive it. I was like, you can give it to me right now. And he was like, so you think I'm going to give you the nation's second highest award for valor in combat in a somewhat squared away squad bay? Sergeant, you must be crazy. I said, okay, sir, well, you can't tell me what to do. Tell me what to do and I'll do it. And he was like, well, I don't want it to be like that. I want you to tell me what it is you want. I said, sir, well, I'm not receiving this award if I'm not doing it in front of my Marines. And he was like, that's the deal breaker. You have to do it in front of your Marines. Yes, sir. If we can go up to North Carolina and do it in the quad and Bravo Company, I'm good with that. He said, no, we're just gonna make it happen in front of your Marines. So he sends a fleet of buses up to North Carolina, and doing my second platoon graduation, all my Marines is inside of the all-weather training facility, and I get the award in front of my graduating platoon.
Back at Camp Lejeune at 1-8.
No. Back in Paris.
Okay, all right. When you said your Marines, I wasn't sure if you're talking about the Marines from your previous year.
No, he sent some Greyhound buses up to North Carolina.
Oh, to bring them
pick
down.
Up my battalion.
Got it.
And bring
okay.
them down.
Okay, so they came. You didn't go to them. They came to you. Okay. So I did understand. I knew 1-8 was involved. I just had to figure out where. Okay, a couple things here. One, in that moment when your Marines are there, when do you feel pride? Do you feel pride? When does it come in that moment where you're actually like, okay, this is cool. Like this is why I became a Marine kind of moment. Not like I'm proud of myself, I did something great, but there is just a certain level of acceptance where you get to it like, okay, I've earned this, and I've earned it for them, I earned it for everybody else, I earned it for myself, but kind of take me through the emotions.
I can tell you this, man. I knew it was happening, but it still felt kind of weird. And I'd already talked to the depot commander. I was like, sir, I don't want to speak. I just want to come up and do whatever it is that we got to do. About face, clap, 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 4:30, and go back to have a seat. He's okay, sure. Hey, sure, Sergeant, no problem. No problem. When my Marines came there, they helped me get over because I wasn't going to do it. I didn't know how I felt about it. I think I remember at the time, I remember feeling guilty. I remember feeling weird. I felt like this was over the top. I felt like I just want this crap to die. I don't want to keep talking about Fallujah.
Right.
And if I put it over my left breast, then I'm going to always have to talk about Fallujah. But my Marines, when they came up there in typical 1-8 fashion, they just took over the place. And this made me feel good. It made me feel good. It made me feel comfortable. So as he addressed, General Lefebvre, as he addresses the audience and everything and talked to them about the history of the award and all that stuff, and he pins it on me, I'm thinking, okay, it's over with, about face, clap, 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 4:30. And as I'm getting ready to take my 4:30, now, ladies and gentlemen, a few words from Sergeant McDade. I know I said I didn't want to talk, but so I just grabbed the mic. As a ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for coming. I accept this award on behalf of my Marines that we lost in. I accept this award on behalf of my Marines, something like that. Gave him the mic back, and I just kind of just stepped off. Later that night, my Marines took me out, and we just pretty much tore down beautiful South Carolina. We tore it down. And I wasn't even a drinker then, but I don't know how many shots and how many drinks, and the Marines actually was telling me their perspective and their understanding of not even just Fallujah, but the Marine that I was for them before we even deployed to Fallujah. And they told me, it's freaking badass. You better freaking wear it. You better never take it off. So I kind of got orders from all my Marines. Hey, bro, you're doing the right thing. This is what's supposed to happen. Wear it for all of us. So that kind of gave me some peace to
That's awesome.
Do it the right way.
Any thoughts of Anderson in those moments?
Nothing by Anderson every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
No, I know, but I'm saying, like, I guess I just mean in the moment.
In that moment,
getting the award, thinking, again, going back to the term that we coined guilt before, whatever it was that we were feeling, or you were feeling for that moment, how hard is it to, even though your Marines gave you the blessing, how hard is it to still accept it knowing that he's gone?
It was very difficult. And like I said, if my Marines are up there, I don't know how I go through it. But they actually all circled around me, and we all group hug and prayed about it and talked to Anderson and all kinds of stuff. And yeah, man, I've always been at a loss for words when I think about. And it's not just Anderson. It's like what you said. It's like, did I have a shot at even did I ever have a shot at getting them out of there alive? There's still always those questions that aren't answered that we have with ourselves. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, listen, 100% I understand it. I asked the question just because, again, the emotions of something that's supposed to be, let me rephrase, something that is viewed by the rest of people who don't have it as an incredible honor and something amazing. It becomes a responsibility to you. And whatever the foundation of that responsibility is, in this case, your Marines, in this case, Anderson, whatever it is now one thing that you have to sort of be the steward of every single day. Like, you can't just be Aubrey McDade anymore. You're a Navy Cross recipient, Aubrey McDade. And that's a big freaking deal. Like, Medal of Honor recipients have told me that. It's not XX did something bad. It's Medal of Honor recipient did something bad. Right. So there is a certain amount of weight that comes with it. But moreover, I would say this, and forgive because I don't have anything of note as far as awards are concerned. But the award represents Anderson and all the other Marines and all the guys that you fought alongside. And you have to just be sort of the flagpole on which it flies, right? That's all you are. You're a conduit to their story. And you sharing your story here on this platform shares Anderson's story and the rest of your Marines. They're all wrapped up in that medal that sits right there on your chest. And what you've earned and what they all earned alongside of you. And I think that that's something that's special. I know it's harder for you to grasp that because, again, you have the responsibility of wearing it. I get to sit on the sidelines and look at you and go, great stuff. I understand, what you're thinking and feeling. I would feel the same way if I was in your shoes, but I don't have the responsibility of it. It's like everybody can imagine what it's like to be a parent when it's not their kid. Then when it becomes your kid, all of a sudden the game changes, right? That's so, you have 10 kids, you got an 11th one right now. And unfortunately, it carries a lot of weight for a lot of people. But, again, and I say all this just because I could see in your face and I could see the emotion and, the emotions are valid, Aubrey. They are. I mean, there's, don't think that they're not, but I want you to know that I won't ever forget your story without remembering Corporal Anderson, period. Because that's part of it, right? If they could have given, and I don't want to phrase it this way, but like, it's almost like, you found out Anderson got hit, and that was the one guy you wanted to make sure was okay. You might not have gone down the alley with the same urgency. You might have had 2 or 3 other things that could have diverted your attention, but that was what drove you down there. That was what you were going for. The cross doesn't exist on your chest without it. So I know his story now because you shared it. And I think that is the greatest gift you can give to the memory of Corporal Anderson.
Thank you for that, bro.
I mean, that's really, I just share it because I wish I could offer some other, sort of way to assuage the feelings that come with the whole thing. And I've had this, again, I've been fortunate enough to speak with several Medal of Honor recipients, and it's the same thing. I can't imagine what the sort of weight that bears on a routine basis or on a daily basis. But don't think of weight as heavy. Think of weight as responsibility that is bestowed upon you. You get the honor of carrying this for you. That machine gun hill, that Mount Suck, whatever it was called, what they were pointing out when you found out you were 0331. Yeah. That's not the weight you're talking about. Right. This is the weight of, I'm standing in front of this formation, in front of all these Marines, and they're my responsibility, and I love them. I'm going to take care of them. That same kind of weight, different thing. All right, good. Well, I'm again, thank you for sharing. I really appreciate it. It's really, really, it's special and well-deserved honor and amazing story. That all said, you go back to Iraq a third time. I assume that this deployment is not as eventful as the last one?
Oh, yeah, not at all. This deployment was actually confirmation for me. I got a little excited because I couldn't even recognize the place. And our biggest responsibility there was to escort the EPIRT. I forget what it is, but they teach them how to farm and, I guess fix their soil so they can actually grow crops and stuff. So we would actually go out there and just make sure they had safe travel to and from. But to be in the city again, I was able to feel the energy of different places where I was at. But as far as being able to visually recognize it, it didn't even look the same. It didn't look the same at all. But the ability to be able to go back and see it actually thriving for whatever little period of time that it did thrive before it was taken over again, it was good to see that.
Yeah. Second time I got back to Iraq, I'm like, boy, this place was more of a shithole the last time I left it. It was
right.
it was kind of depressing to say the least, but different conversation. You mentioned that you had ended up going to therapy around 2014. Now you're a gunny sergeant at this point in time. You're 14, 15 years into your career. The world is sort of your oyster, but what's really going on behind the scenes that nobody knows about and nobody sees? What are you thinking and feeling?
Every day was a struggle, man. And the best way I can explain it is like, for those who haven't gone to combat, like go to your favorite rock band concert, your favorite concert, and how loud it was, it's in your mind, that same volume, and it's always like that. To your whole body, my whole body felt numb. Like, how you sleep on your arm wrong, you got like those tingly. My whole body would feel like that every day. And the only thing that would allow me to get off of that is maybe training recruits or doing something to stay busy. And my life went from, I don't know how much sleep I was getting at first, but I know I was getting between 2 and 4 hours every day for like almost 10, 12 years. And finally it got to a point, my wife and I at the time, we was at a Marine Corps ball in MCRD San Diego. So I'm doing my second tour as a drill instructor again at San Diego. And when they do the roll call and they ring the bell, I just freak out, bro. I don't understand what it is or why that's a trigger for me. But I wig out, and she's like, we can't keep doing this shit. Like, you've been doing this for double-digit years now. You need to get some help. And my first son at the time, I was drill instructor school instructor in San Diego. First son, Courier. He's like, man, you don't have to prove nobody. He said, you taking care of the Marines. You've made Marine Corps drill instructors. You've created Marines. I'm not asking you to do anything else. I'm asking you to get some help. Drill instructor school will be fine. So my first therapy session was with, she wasn't a full therapist. I don't know what her title was at the time, but it was Lieutenant Garoppolo in the Navy. And what was supposed to be an hour ended up being 3 hours. And I took her through the whole gambit. Obviously, it was a lot more raw then because I hadn't really been telling it or not.
Right.
And she sent me through this program called Oasis. And Oasis is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. At that time, if I had a choice between going back to Fallujah or doing therapy, I would go back to Fallujah. That's how intense it was. And then after that, I did that for 8 weeks, 9 weeks. And I fell in on a really good friend of mine who actually is a part of the reason I was able to finish my tour successfully in the Marine Corps. And Master Gunner's son, Ross Blaine, he was in therapy as well and took me under his wing. And I didn't really get anything from the Oasis treatment just because I believe it was too soon. But I did gain a friend and a big brother in him that I was able to lean on and make him part of my battle buddy group, if you will. And but then after I got done with that, I did the rest of my time in the Marine Corps, 3 days a week, group therapy, twice a month individual therapy. And I went to alcohol groups on Tuesday, just because alcoholism runs parallel with PTSD.
Sure.
Not a big drinker at all. But in each one of these counseling sessions, if you will, I got something different. You know, I got the serenity prayer from the alcohol group. You know, God grant me the serenity, accept things I can't change, all that. Yeah. That gives me peace. And in therapy, the fact that she was able to teach me how to focus on the facts and not the emotions. If it can be, you can't research it or judge it by 12, then it's an emotion. And emotions are real, but they're only real to me. They're not real as it relates to the situation. So I got a good fight plan in place to hold myself accountable or working through my friction as it relates to intrusive thoughts and intrusive memories.
Do you think getting the Navy Cross contributed more to it we talked a little bit about, until you get it in the right space mentally of having it, do you think that it weighed on you more and sort of pushed you into this area where your mind wasn't right?
No.
Okay.
There's a few times that I forget that I have it until somebody is like all crazy with the little finger pointing and stuff. I put in a lot of work. I put in a lot of work to be the version of myself that I was before Fallujah. Mm-hmm. Having come from my background and being successful in the Marine Corps, I really put a lot of work in to come to grips with this is who I am. This is how I'm going to present myself.
How much of your upbringing in the dangerous hood that you lived in the neighborhood that you lived in, either played a role in helping you or sort of slowing down your overcoming it? Because again, like we're all products of where we grow up, right? And the environment you grew up in was tough enough, and now you're dealing with this. Is there anything you draw off of, any experience you can draw off that helps you through it, or do you think that it might have hindered you in a little way?
I think both. I think that having to be as resilient as I had to be as a young person growing up, dumpster diving for cans and bottles to recycle to get money for feed my siblings, and walking 3 to 5 miles to the homeless shelters, eating food with the homeless people at 7 to 8 years old with my parents, or living in vacant apartments and houses with no plumbing and yada yada yada. Wash your clothes in the bathtub, all this whole kind of stuff. It gave me the ability to be resilient and overcome situations without making myself a victim in them. But then on the flip side of it, the things I experienced in Fallujah are connected to the things I went through as a kid, and they all are one and the same. So they all are, in my head.
Yeah, I mean, like
crazy.
there's different levels of there's the trauma you experienced as a kid and the trauma you experienced in combat, and now you're unpacking both of them at the same time.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah,
it's a fight. It is a fight.
Yeah, I can't imagine, to say the least. And I tell you, it sucks. It sucks when regular life gets in the way of just trying to un-F yourself from combat, right? Like all the regular life stuff that you just like, I don't really think about it, or I've moved on and everything else, and all of a sudden it's like, the therapist asks you a question, well, when I was growing up, I felt like this and that, you realize all that crap's connected. You're like, damn, I'm just one big mess. I'm one big mess. I didn't want to be a mess, but I'm a mess.
Right.
Well, look, I mean, again, it's a journey, so I don't necessarily say congratulations on it, but I say, hats off to you for being persistent and staying with it as a hallmark of who you are, and continuing to work on yourself and improve yourself to get where you are. It's not easy. I have to remind myself constantly, I'm not on a destination. I'm on a journey. That there is a I'm going to have good days and bad days, and I have days where memories pop up that I can't get rid of, and days that I don't think about anything, and it just is what it is. I say routinely, there are some days I wish I never opened Pandora's box because I was comfortable with where the box was, and I never had to look in it. But unfortunately, the box starts to eat away from you on the inside out, but once it's out there, it's sort of like it's in front of you nonstop, and you can't escape it. And that's part of the challenge with it. But again, I commend you for being cognizant enough to do it. Took me a lot longer than it took you to actually get to that point. So I'm always happy to see people taking that step. And it's a message to all the veterans, right? I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's been 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, whatever it is. If you think it's there, just go search it out and look at it and see what you come up with. So you end up getting medically discharged. Now, you had thought at two previous points in your career you were going to get out for one reason or another. Now the Marine Corps is actually putting you out. Are you resistant to being medically discharged?
At first I was. I really was. I didn't have no stopping me at all, bro. Like the Marine Corps was everything I needed it to be, and then everything I wanted it to be once I got indoctrinated in the Marine Corps. And then to tell me that I can no longer serve, I had to make sure that that's where Ross Blaine comes into play. He said, man, the Marine Corps not just making this up. You really think you can go out there and continue? You only got 2 years left. I get it. Do you think you can go out there and get in front of a formation, lead them on a run 3 times a week, be on your feet and do all them, I'm up, they see me, I'm down stuff? Do you really believe you can do that? Do you believe you can do that the way that the Marines need you to do it? And I had to have a conversation with myself. And I got pins and screws in my ankles, and I got back issues, and now I'm struggling with TBI, light sensitivity, and all that stuff. And they're like, bro, you did your time, man. Get out the way. This is a young man's game. Get out the way, and let somebody come in that's better for the Marines to do it. And probably the toughest pill I had to swallow. But before I swallowed it, I went out there and tried to run a PFT, and I was the kind of stuff in this jacked up ankle, and it was trash. It was trash. I can still, if I get on a pull-up bar, I can still get on a pull-up bar and do that. But as far as the other stuff, it's like, I can't do it. I got 7 degrees of motion in my right ankle. It was bittersweet. And unfortunately, man, I saw another side of the military. I saw another side of the Marine Corps. When I was actually going through my transition of getting therapy and medical treatment and stuff, I was just able to see the Marine Corps differently. Not the Marine Corps entirely, but just on the West Coast. What happened? How so? What would you see differently? So I'm on this struggle, on this journey to try to mitigate the struggle and try to find that hoorah, Marine Corps kill, Marine Corps lifestyle that I'm used to, and trying to find the motivation. And the surgeons at Naval Medical Center, San Diego did a good job for what it's worth. But for me, I wanted to get back into the fight. I don't have that. So I'm addressing my concerns with them about my ankle and the pain and stuff that I'm still feeling. I was accused of being a malingerer. I was like, the first time ever I had to really pull this card, I said, man, you better go fucking Google me. You better go fucking Google me. That's not who I am. I'm not malingering. I'm telling you, my freaking ankle isn't working.
That was the first thought in my head. It's like, yeah.
Yeah. So finally he did that, and I had to get another doctor, and the other doctor came in. He told me, he said, I see what your issue is. You got a calcium deposit that hinges your ankle. And the problem with it is if we do another surgery, we can remove all of the scar tissue and the calcium, but by the time you heal up, it'll be back. So we can try to do some ultras. He gave me some treatment plans and stuff. It made me feel pretty good. But then I would go to some of the other units in Marine Corps up at Pendleton. And even when I got a chance to go to North Carolina to visit, it was like the Marines just I'm just looking for that fire. I'm looking for that. I don't give a damn about combat. I'm gonna give it 110% right now. And that's when a low reg epidemic was like all over the place. Marines don't want to get haircuts. I'm seeing fat guys in uniforms that I think it was just me. And you know they got a saying, you go looking for something, you'll find it. And I think I just set myself up for failure. I probably should have just left it alone, but it gave me what I needed to go ahead and accept orders for medical return.
You know, it's one of those things that's simple to say is they need you till they don't, right?
Right, yep.
The military needs you until they don't anymore. And then they got no problem getting rid of you. It is a cold business. And a reality that all of us have to face. I'm going through it right now. Staring retirement in the face, and there's not a single ounce of you that is ever, we talked about training, right? Like there's not a single ounce of you that's trained just to let go and say,
right,
I'm walking away.
Yep.
Right? Trained to stay in the fight. And it's tough. It's emotionally tough. It's physically tough. It's a shot to your ego. It's no one wants to be told, let me rephrase that, not no one. Most of us in uniform never want to be told you're not good enough anymore. And that's just the reality of our business. Much similar to professional athletes. It's like, you'll fight and try to stay, and Father Time is undefeated, and the same thing goes for us, right? Father Time eventually just takes over. Father Time takes over, or, the military clock takes over, and then you're done anyway. So one and the same. All right, so do you have any idea what you're going to do with your life when you're getting out now?
No, man. My wife and I at the time, due to all the hardships and stuff that we had to go through with the PTSD and night episodes and me just being numb and not emotionally available and all that stuff. So I get out and I took some time for myself because I had been going through therapy, and I wanted to give us a fair shot when I got out. So I got out and moved to San Antonio, place I'd never been to before. And she and I, we kind of just went through the motions for about a year. And finally, it got to the point of like this, we're not growing this way. And she and I are still really good friends. I can tell her right now, hey, look, I got some smoke in Dallas. She gonna pull up. Like that's how she is. So, so we went through a divorce. Then I moved back to Fort Worth and kind of got my bearing about myself and started doing a little job at Veridesk, the sit-to-stand desk. My first corporate job I enjoyed Veridesk a lot. Did that for about 18 months, and the opportunity with LaDanian Tomlinson just fell in my lap. It was a Marine, well, still a Marine, Cliff Dean. He served like early 90s. He's a COO. He and I had a conversation about, the program and what it is we're trying to do. I just felt like it was a sweet spot for me. I was actually born in California. So before we moved to Texas, I was 3 years old. I was in foster care. Didn't know it. My mom had told me when we got here, I was in foster care. And then growing up without a father and all that stuff, I felt like for me to be able to get back in front of them with the life that I led before the Marine Corps and all the things I endured in the Marine Corps, that I have a platform to make an impact. Done a few speaking engagements and stuff like that. And I'm still looking to probably think it's a problem. I'm still looking to do more of that in the near future. But right now, my focus has been, how do I position myself to make Tomlinson Center be as impactful as it can be for these young people that come from environments, something like mine.
That's amazing. And again, it's an incredible organization. They teach leadership, establish high school production cultures, and just all those sort of, foundations that you're supposed to get from traditional family life and whatever that looks like, that are sort of falling, by the wayside for one reason or another, to give that to them and give them at least a foundation that isn't there, I think is super important. And it's something I would venture a guess to say that had you had more of that in your youth, things might be different, no?
Yeah, man, that's the goal for me. I just try to be the person for them that I didn't have for myself.
Right.
I love football. Like LaDanian Tomlinson, Barry Sanders, Jerome Bettis, Bo Jackson, Adrian Peterson, in my top 5. And when I played football,
Jerome Bettis in the same category as those other guys? Oh, you're nuts.
Jerome Bettis. Look, when I was a kid, man, the bus.
Love the bus. I get it. But, I mean, you're talking about Barry, and you're talking about AP, and you put Jerome Bettis in there?
Yeah, different times in my life. When I was younger, like 10, 11, it was Barry Sanders. I was in the projects juking everybody.
He's still the best in the world. For my money, that'll be the best running back I'll ever see, period.
Oh, yeah, same here. Yeah, man, and
what does he ask you? What does LT ask you about your service?
He doesn't.
Really?
He doesn't. Okay. Yeah, LT is as humble on TV as he is in person. And he definitely doesn't cross any boundaries or anything like that. So when we get our opportunity to get together and let our hair down, I share with him some stuff in casual conversation. But he has a great deal of respect for me. So I think it's just one of those things like, man, I'll let it come up when it comes up.
I know that you said that you have a good relationship with your mother. You did so much traveling all over the world and all over the country. Is there a time where she starts to reinsert herself back into your everyday life?
Yeah. My mom actually came to live with me for a little while when in 2004 when I came back. Okay. She actually came out there and lived with us for a little while. And every now and again, she would come visit, like different duty stations I've been to. She's come out and visit and hung out with us for a little bit. Now she's just working on her health and everything because, I guess my mom's been a diabetic since she was a kid.
Right.
So diabetes is starting to have more of a say than it used to. So working on just trying to regulate her health and get at a sustainable level. She had a mild stroke a couple years ago. Although it was mild, she still has some impacts from it with slurred speech and some of her body mechanics and stuff.
I know you have a blended family. You have 10 kids you mentioned before. Your oldest are old enough to understand what you did and what you're about. Do they know the full scope of everything?
Yeah, man. So my 2 oldest boys, Trey and Tyree, they were like my best friends growing up. We grew up together. So all the mistakes and stuff that I made, but I apologize to them damn near every week. Hey, man, I messed it up with you guys, but y'all turned out great, and I thank you for it. So my oldest son, he runs a couple of routes with FedEx, and then my second oldest, he's actually in the Air Force. He's stationed in Maryland.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, look, I hope they get to watch us and listen to this and really maybe unearth some stones about Dad that they didn't know before. It's amazing that you have a family that big. That's mind blowing to me. I thought twins were tough, but regardless, I just think too, it's, there's so much about what we have gone through. And my biggest thing with my PTSD was always I didn't want to pass it on to my children. I didn't want them to emulate behaviors that I was doing on a routine basis. And obviously, the more you have, the more of an effect it is, especially in wide age ranges, and there's a trickle down effect. And so, I wonder if you ever thought a lot about that and the impact it was having on your kids.
I did, man. My kids seen me at the worst of it. They seen the nightmares. They seen, the anger episodes, and a few times out of the year, I was just in a dark place. And my two oldest, I would say that I'm proud of them for rocking with me the way they did. Being at such a young age at that time, they were teenagers, 16, 17, whatever. For them to just have my back the way they did. I know there are times they probably didn't want to work out with me, but they would, hey, Dad, let's go to the gym. Or, hey, Dad, this weekend, let's go out to a bar or whatever. And they be designated drivers, and not, after they graduated high school, obviously, they take me out. And so it's a whole bunch of things they've done that I'm thankful for. And at their level and ability to be able to have a conversation with their siblings, they did it. So I think they got a pretty good grasp. My son's in the Air Force now, so he's in the Air Force talking about his dad to everybody. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
One more here. I know you said you wanted to start a nonprofit. You and a fellow Marine are working on a nonprofit. Tell me about it.
Yeah, man. So he's a pastor in Houston, and he and I serve together. Well, not in the same unit, but he's a younger Marine, but he and I from the same, from Houston. We and I connected. We was in the Marine Corps, and now he's a pastor. And he's been a pastor his entire life. But now he's a pastor and has his own practice in Houston. And he and I reconnected last year sometime, and he was telling me about it. And I was telling him, by the way, I was in foster care and, grew up without a father. And he didn't know that I was in foster care. He knew about my dad a little bit, but he didn't know that I was in foster care. So he presented his idea to me about, hey, man, nonprofit, we call it Life Changer 365. And it'll be for fatherless children and children in foster care under ages 21.
I mean, again, it's just one of those things where you're in that sweet spot that's personal for you, but so positive for others. And I think that's admirable. I mean, there's so many nonprofits out there, and part of me is almost like glad you didn't do a military nonprofit, right? Because it's such a saturated space that you're willing to take your time, your talent, and everything else and put it towards, again, something that's personal to you, but that helps shape your military career and now leveraging what you did in your career back to where it is, I think is excellent. So I wish you the best luck. Keep us posted on it. Let us know when we're going live, and certainly we'll get you back on here to talk about it when it's up and running.
Thank you. I just wish there's more people, man, that actually want to take on this issue. It's bigger than the issue, but I don't know the word to call it. There's not many people here that really want to deal with these wayward young people, and that they're not wayward because of things they've done. They're wayward because of
wasn't their
not
choice.
being able to navigate. Yeah. Yep. They got conditions on the ground and with no guidance, and it kind of happens. So I don't know. Hopefully we can bring some attention to it, to where other people be motivated, and they won't have to reinvent the wheel. They can just follow what it is that we're building.
No, and look, at the end of the day, mentorship is a tenet of military service. We all have had mentors. And at a certain point, we all desire to be mentors, or whether we want to be mentors or not, people will approach us. And like your Marines told you, hey, you were the model of the Marine that I wanted to be when before the Navy Cross stuff happened. I just looked at you and said, that's what you were being a mentor. And these young kids, that's all they really need. If it's not mom and or dad, or two moms, two dads, whatever sort of concoction you want to put, it's just a mentor that's going to give them the right way ahead. It's that simple, and it doesn't have to be any more complicated than that. So much like your personality, simple, genuine, effective, and certainly motivational. So it's incredible. Look, I love this story, brother. I do. I told you I fell in love with it the minute I read it and knew what it was about, and it's great to talk to you and hear you tell it. And thank you for being emotional and sharing your emotions, man. It's never easy. I hope you rest well tonight still because of this. But it's just it's special to know that that you're willing to share that stuff with the audience and with me personally. I appreciate it.
Me too, man. It's actually taking on another life. You know how at first it was a Silver Star, then it was upgraded to Navy Cross. Now that I've crawled out from under my rock and a lot more people know about it now. Now people are hitting me up about, man, why wasn't it a Medal of Honor? Why wasn't it this? Why wasn't it that? And I don't usually entertain that, but hopefully maybe some of those people that have those questions are watching this. I was born with a heart of honor. I'm not going to sit up here and take any credit for I've done this kind of training, I'm this kind of person. This is the person I wanted to be, but also this is the person that God made me. If my award is upgraded to a Medal of Honor, I'm going to do the same thing I'm doing right now. I'm going to try to use it the best way that I can to help a lot of us get out of our situation to be a better version of ourselves so we can enjoy this place a lot better. I don't know what that looks like. Right now, I'm just kind of following God's footsteps and just trying to be impactful the best way that I can for those who need it. And what we're doing is not for everybody, you know, but if I can, they say one person, I think I got a little bit more pride than one. If I can reach 10, fine. But I'm going to try to find out who they are and reach.
Perfect words to end this on. Really, really appreciate you spending some time with me. It's been great to get to know you a little bit. Wish you nothing but continued success. Let me know where Life Changer gets going. I wish, hope it gets off the ground very quickly. And I know when it does, it'll be a raging success. But certainly, again, great to get to know you. And all I could say is, Aubrey McDade, thanks for being part of the Hazard Ground.
My man, Mark. Appreciate it, brother.
You've been listening to the Hazard Ground Podcast, hosted by Mark Zeno. If you have an interesting story to tell and you'd like to be on the show, send us an email at producer@hazardground.com. And if you like the show, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.